A lonely orphan boy is dragged into the street and forced into cruel tests that turn him into a target. A group of crazy scientists choose to turn him into a living weapon. He is given the name Subject 17, and over the years he is forced to swallow the cells of more than 500 monsters until he stops looking like anything that could be called human. After they ruin his body and see him as just a failed experiment, the scientists decide he's only useful as disposable meat to send right into the front lines. We began this experiment with a single goal in mind, but when the gates of the demon realm shattered and flooded the world with monsters, only a few awakened hunters rose up, and even fewer of them were strong enough to hold back the darkness. Eventually, people realized they didn't have enough awakened to go on. So, they decided to go down a much darker path. They began building chimera hunters. Prisoners were fused with monster cells in secret labs to fight the beasts for them. When chimera number 17 steps into the monster realm, he surprises everyone by wiping out beasts that are even stronger than S-rank threats. He slices through beasts and wipes out entire armies of monsters, even if it means destroying his own body in the process. The hunters peeking from behind can't believe what they are seeing. One chimera is carrying out the job of a whole army. But once the job is finished, the hunters leave him behind on purpose. The order was clear: bring back chimera number 17 dead, or don't bring her back at all. All that is left of him is just one bone. Suddenly, that one bone lifts into the air and rebuilds his whole body until chimera number 17 is back. Except this time, he wakes up as a handsome young man with rock-solid abs, still in shock from his insane revival, and wondering if he is truly human once again. Thinking those monster cells inside him mean he's no longer fully human, especially with how he casually flexes his sharp talons like he's ready to launch a fashion line for apex predators. Our boy feels abandoned by the lab, just like a stingy ex would leave someone. Then he spots that the lab number once tattooed on his arm has vanished, making him wonder if he's finally cut loose from the lab for good, especially since his new body burns with a heat that suggests he might be one of those immortal monsters who can rise from the dead 3 times unless their core gets destroyed. But one thing still bothers him. Scientists swore that human cells and monster cells could never mix. Yet here he stands in full power, glowing with strength that makes Johnny Bravo look like just another blur in the background. He feels the fog and mental chains that used to cloud his mind have vanished, setting him free from his old life as the obedient number 17. A random label he's ready to drop now that he can live like a real human again. And as he tries to remember his true name, a sudden flashback reveals an old scientist calling him a rough but troubled lunatic who was told to help people from then on. The old man begged him to dedicate his life to saving 1,000 people. But back then, our brooding, edgy teen was too caught up in his own mood to even bother answering. He snaps out of it, calls that advice total nonsense, and laughs at the crazy thought that a kid raised in the slums would ever try to help anyone. As he watches the sunset, noticing how his muscles gleam on their own like they have their own lights, he thinks about revenge for a second but then lets the idea go. In the end, revenge needs someone to aim at, but his grudge has faded to just a faint itch, and besides, there's no way back to the human world right now. He decides to push the revenge aside for later and focus on what lies ahead, hoping he'll meet them again someday. Gazing down at his own magnificent form, which a heavenly light conveniently hides his softer parts, he decides to start living like a real person again to make up for all the time he has lost. As he walks away, he decides to go find some clothes, but then a strange idea hits him. He can't even remember the last time he wore anything, and no matter how hard he thinks, he can't figure out what kind of material he should look for. So he does what any lost barbarian would do and scans the area until something catches his eye. Ahead, he spots the dead body of a bird monster and wonders if it lost a fight without a single scratch to show for it. That makes him think it must be poison, which is perfect for him since the mint condition makes it easy to skin. He casually turns his arm into a massive blade as if he's just grabbing a butter knife, remembering from the lab that he should start cutting the belly first before moving on to the limbs. As soon as Chan cuts it open, a cloud of purple gas spills out. He instantly knows it's poison, yet he doesn't flinch and inhales it as if it were perfume. The only thing that bugs him is the smell, because now he's going to have to scrub that hide clean. After a while, he finished skinning the overgrown turkey and decided it wasn't too bad for a first try. He rushes to the river to wash the hide, but upon pulling it out, he finds it stiff and disappointed, suspecting the monster is to blame until a sudden idea strikes him. So he lays it flat and starts beating it like it owes him money, half hoping this trick will work and half fearing it will ruin all his hard work. After some good old medieval therapy, the hide turns soft again, and he holds it up proudly, ducking behind the naked bird corpse from modesty before making some adjustments. Suddenly, a flame flickers to life on the monster's head. The bird's eyes snap open in shock, clearly horrified to see someone peeling its skin off like wrapping paper. Chaeyeon quickly punches holes in the hide, slips into his makeshift gear, and ties a vine around his waist, looking so ready for the runway that he honestly feels great about his new look. He sees the leftover poison tucked inside, but shrugs and leaves it there since scrubbing it out feels like too much trouble. Right then, the bird monster gives a deafening scream that startles Chaeyeon, who honestly thought it was dead. It wilds around and even looks like it gets what we say, which really throws Chaeyeon off. Since the creature wasn't breathing before, he knows it's likely immortal, and while he would have roasted it instantly, if this had happened before, he now hesitates. Now that he sees it is weak and defenseless, he decides there's no need to proceed. John just smiles and tells the bird it got lucky, wishing it a second chance before turning to leave. As he walks away, he casually mentions that if fate gets a little spicy, they might meet again. After a bit of time, he wanders into a cave, peering around as if he's looking for the perfect place to live. Suddenly, a huge centipede leaps out and lands right in front of him. Yet Chaeyeon doesn't even flinch because he's too focused on checking if the lighting is good enough for home. With one quick, sharp chop, he knocks the centipede's head off like he's swatting a fly and walks away, crossing this cave off his list. Next, he arrives in a snowy mountain where a yeti lies frozen in fear, likely having just seen Chaeyeon jump out like a monster from the woods. Our boy ran out of luck with the yetis, so he turned down this spot because finding food here would be a real nightmare. Then he explores the forest, but the mushrooms smell so terrible it's like someone microwaved fish in an office break room. So he decides to head back. He wanders from a spooky lizard cave to a suspiciously warm volcano, yet nothing feels quite right. He finally reaches the cliff's edge and stops to stare at the amazing view before him. He is shocked that the demon realm can look so beautiful, so he casually leaps off the cliff and lands with a heavy thud that would shatter anyone else's spine. Chan sees that the water is so clear you can spot all the healthy fish swimming around. As giant fish jump out to steal a bite, he imagines roasting one for a camping feast, then realizes this place is perfect with its own fish farm, fresh air, and blooming flowers, so he decides to build his home here and name it the Cheondoan House. While far away in the demon lands, the air crackles as a portal tears open and something blasts out, smashing into the ground with a deafening boom. A robot stands up from the smoke, glances around, and asks itself in disbelief if it has truly found the demon realm. He pauses to let the fresh air and bright flowers wash over him, and in that moment, he knows this is the perfect spot to build Cheondoan's home. He starts by sweeping the area clear with vine-like tendrils sprouting from his fingertips, chopping down every tree in a single, smooth motion. Once he finishes clearing the spot, he uses the vines to gather and stack the fallen logs to build his home. Just as everything felt fine, he spotted that the ground was bumpier than he liked. So he grabs the vines once more, smoothing them out and clearing away every last stump until the open space is finally clean enough to build a cabin worthy of a Pinterest board. As he fits the logs into place and drives in the main pillars, he feels his body moving on instinct, making him wonder if this is what people mean by free will, especially since this is the first thing he's ever built that truly belongs to him. He lays down the floor planks next and swaps nails from monster snail mucus because it hardens like rock, which he thinks might even waterproof the floor, making it a total win. Once his main structure is done, he adds a personal touch by layering silkworm cocoon threads over the roof, which makes him feel safe enough to think the monsters won't be knocking on the door anytime soon. And while the house looks cozy and almost finished, he stops to wonder what else a real human home should have. She remembers how they used to play videos of ordinary houses before the gates ever opened. Thinking it over, he decides that since dogs don't belong in the demon world, he should grow plants instead. And after a moment of inspiration, he chooses mandragoras because the nearby snowy mountain is the perfect home for them. As he trudged through the freezing snow, the way the white piles around him reminded him of the kidnapping that sent him to the lab. And now that he's a chimera, he even sees it as a blessing since he no longer fears the cold or hunger. Feeling the heavy manna in the air, he knew he was close, and soon enough, he spotted the mandragora roots. They look like sunfish with leafy heads, but they are so sensitive to stress that even the tiniest change in their surroundings can kill them. He figures choosing the younger ones is the smart move, since they'll probably handle the big change much better. So he picks 3 of them, ready for the loud screams he knows they're famous for. But instead of hearing those shrill cries, he finds the first one fast asleep, snoring just like a baby. And the other 2 he picks later are also peacefully snoozing, even talking in their sleep. That confusion clears up once he realizes the mandra screams were just a lab-made nightmare from humans forcing them to grow in stressful, low-mana places, where the shrieking was simply their reaction to being ripped out. He wonders if the quiet is because they're in the demon realm, and even if they aren't trying to fight or run, it might just mean they see him as one of their own, which makes sense since he has demon cells inside him too. He softly tucks them into his belt, feeling glad they are calm, and starts to think about whether he could later politely ask for some of their roots to make tea or maybe their fruit to eat. Though he quickly remembers that the fruit turns poisonous if picked forcibly, he decides to wait until the timing feels right and then ask for it nicely. Just then, he senses hunters nearby and wonders why anyone would climb such a deadly snowy peak unless they had to. But since he could use their gate stones, he decides to investigate them anyway. Meanwhile, one hunter complains that their teammates left them to face danger alone, while the other yells for him to focus as a wave of monster rabbits charges right at them. Huge, scary rabbits jump at them with open mouths full of writhing tentacles and sharp fangs. Just in time, the guy pulls up a force field to stop them from becoming dinner. Soon, he sees the barrier won't last, and he starts wishing he'd just taken on odd jobs instead. He screams for help, wishing he could undo every choice that brought him to this point. Just as his shield bursts in and nothing, our boy swoops down with a Superman crash that leaves both hunters frozen in shock at seeing a real person just pop out of nowhere. The pressure from his mere presence sends the snow rabbits into a panic, and without hesitation, they scatter like terrified little rodents, leaving the two hunters standing there in total disbelief that B-class monsters just ran for their lives from Half-Naked Man. They scramble to thank him, introduce themselves as Xiangju and Kim Taeyan, ask for his name, and learn that while he shares it, neither has ever heard a name quite like it before. Kim Taeyan teases his rugged look by wondering if he's a lone wolf hunter, while our guy points out that they're just two low-level hunters wandering into a deadly trap. The two tell him they are hunting a chimera to live for a big reward, and this catches his eye right away. One of them explained that the chimera finally broke out of the lab and jumped through a gate while being chased, which made him breathe a huge sigh of relief, because now he knows they aren't hunting him down. He asks where their gear is, shocked they are wandering empty-handed without a gate stone, only for the man to reveal that their teammates stole everything and betrayed them as part of the plan, a betrayal he now wishes he had seen coming sooner. Listening to their desperate pleas, our boy stares silently at their gate while the hunters beg for a way out, explaining that humans can't stay in the demon world forever without dying, and one even begs him to help because he has a pregnant wife waiting back home. Just as they finish speaking, our hero suddenly stops dead as if feeling a shift in the sky, then blasts off into the air like the Hulk, leaving them confused and windblown in the middle of their speech. Over at the cliff's edge, the robot-like chimera stands tall, and the same hunters who ran away before are now sneaking up behind it to attack. But the creature slowly turns to face them, showing clearly that it is ready to wipe them off the face of the earth. As our boy pulls up to the scene, his eyes go wide as he wonders if he's arrived too late. Seeing blood and gear scattered on the ground while a fading blue energy ball sits at the cliff's edge, he realizes the hunters must have fled. They even left all their stolen goods behind, and the mix of tiny footprints and claw marks suggests our test subject might have been swapping shapes right in the middle of the fight. He remembers the monster hunter telling him that it was a lab experiment that hopped through the gate while trying to get away. Since it's made from rare liquid metal that can change shape, they had to build it small and compact, just like a child. Chan gazes down at the cliff, nearly bursting into laughter as he realizes this tiny mechanical bug managed to destroy 5 B-rank hunters. While back with the injured duo, Kim frantically shakes Zhangju to stop him from giving up, even as Zhangju coughs out that his body is ruined, only for Kim to refuse to accept defeat by bringing up his family. With the last bit of strength in his body, Seong-ju begs Kim to apologize on his behalf, but Kim shouts for him to hold on and insists that miracles can happen. Right then, a figure steps out and makes Kim stiffen with fear, but it's just Chaeyon walking back with all their bags. As soon as the monster hunter spots him, he sprints over, drops to his knees, and starts begging Daddy Chaeyon to save both of them. At first, our hero is lost, but then he recalls telling them he doesn't have the gate stone. That's when Kim suddenly pulls 2 checks worth 10 million yen from his pocket and begs him a hand over the gate stone, rambling that without it, they will surely die. Chaeyon stares at the money, calculating the total in his head, knowing it's useless here, but will be a lifesaver once he gets to the human world. With every ounce of generous chaos his heart can find, he reaches into his pack and pulls out a gate stone. Kim sinks into a perfect bow and keeps thanking him, promising never to forget this kindness. The monster hunter sprints back to his partner, screaming that they need to escape right now, while Chaeyon stares at the 2 checks, trying to figure out where to hide them. As the pair walks toward the gate, Chaeyon asks how much a gate stone costs now, and is told the price has jumped to 1 million yen. Even though he's a humble guy, he insists he was paid too much and pats Zhangju on the shoulder, casually offering to give him some change. Kim stares in confusion until he sees that Chaeyon is pouring his mana straight into his partner. He shouts for him to stop immediately because sending mana to another person is deadly and could kill both of them instantly if it goes wrong. But Kim freezes in fear as Ju suddenly snaps upright like a reset button was pressed, with the dark energy inside him completely cleansed. He pulls Kim into a tearful embrace while the stunned guy just stands there, trying to make sense of everything that just happened. Chaeyon spins around to walk away while Seong-ju cries out that he'll never forget this kindness, leaving Kim frozen in shock as he scrambles to figure out exactly who Chaeyon is. Our boy turns toward home, stops for a quick look around, and lets out a sigh of relief once he's sure no one is watching. The mandra plants start waking up, their droopy and sad leaves raising immediate red flags, so he rushes to plant them right away, only to worry if they'll survive since they still look terrible in the soil. Chaeyon looked at their sad faces and wondered if the pain came from being torn from their home or if they were just too hungry to care. He chose to try the second idea and poured a bit of his mana into the ground to see what would happen. The monster instantly perks up like it just had a huge espresso, and our boy can't help but smile at the result. As he talks to his new leafy roommates, he feels someone standing right behind him. He thinks it's likely the mechanical beast the hunters were hunting, but he can't explain why it followed him all the way to here. He decides to put it aside for now, hides the money, and begins sorting through the bags of spoils. He's finally stocked up with clothes, sleeping bags, and cooking gear, but his eyes light up when he spots a packet of ramen that reminds him of the orphanage where he last ate it. Feeling hungry and full of energy, he dives right into cooking it up. Following the recipe as best he can, he heads to the lake for water, but quickly realizes he's got no clue how to measure the right amount, and before he can think too hard, the sharp-toothed lake fish suddenly leap out like they're trying to get a bite. Recalling how folks toss random bits in a ramen for flavor, he readies his fingers and flicks the soul out of one of the poor fish. Next, he rummages through the place for ingredients like eggs and green onions, and when he finds some strange, capsule-shaped eggs, he grabs a handful. Since there were no real green onions left, he picks some fresh tree leaves instead, hoping they were close enough. He then tosses everything into the pot and decides that's ready to go. Right then, the tiny robot stepped out, clutching its hungry tummy while staring longingly at the steaming pot. Chan lights the fire, spots that the notes don't say when to drop the fish in, so he just tosses everything into the boiling pot to cook together. As the stink rises from the pot, the monster plants gag instantly, while Chaeyon quietly wonders if ramen always smells like this. The scent drifts over to the mechanical creature, which begins to sway as the smell of food hits it. It drifts a bit closer, pretending it's hungry, then suddenly turns into a puppy and limps toward Chaeyon, counting on the fact that humans love dogs just like the lab taught it. Fake whining to get sympathy, but Chaeyon just stares right back. He wasn't even a little bit shocked, convinced the creature was just trying to make him drop his guard and that the injury was clearly faked. Seeing how adorable and silly the puppy acts, he can't believe something so innocent managed to wander out of the lab and into the demon realm on its own. Playing along, he offers a taste of the ramen, and the creature drools instantly. But straight ahead lies a chaotic mess of nonsense, powerful enough to knock down a grown man. And yet both of them choose to step right into it anyway. As soon as they take a bite, the dog pauses to think about the taste, but Chaeyon instantly remembers eating hot pot at the orphanage and smiles, saying it tastes just like the old days. Our hero shouts that it tastes amazing because the happy memory is so powerful, it completely covers up the gross real flavor. In the thick of that stinking air, the unlucky Manhwa's are moments away from their next life. Once the meal is done, Chaeyon tells the dog it's time to clean up and lets it go. As the mechanical pup stumbles off, Chaeyon casually notes that it was limping on the other leg just before. The robot quickly switched back to limping on its original foot, while Chaeyon tried desperately not to laugh. Once the dishes are done, he picks up the laundry and beats the dusty clothes with a stick, just like folks used to do back in the day. Though he hates the pollen and knows he can't live in a leather suit like a caveman, he tries to hit the rock gently without ripping the cloth, but one wild swing smashes the stone so hard it destroys his outfit along with the rock. After a short, uncomfortable silence, he sighs and grabs the final piece of clothing. That's when he spots the robot creature, still watching him from far away. Earlier it hid as a rock, then a fish while he washed dishes, then a tree while he tended flowers, and now he realizes it's been silently following him all along, changing shapes, but never getting closer. This goes on until a bee lands on its nose, making it scream about hating bees while guessing the creature is young, because its robotic speech sounds like a kid with fake memories. He clears his throat to let the creature know he's still there, casually praises the lovely Foria flowers, and finishes his laundry while grumbling that it was harder than he thought. Unfortunately, he notices the clothes are too small, making all his hard work feel like a waste. He hangs the laundry on a silk thread, and then goes to check on the mandriras. The creature seizes the chance, snatches up the shirt he just washed, and puts it on to look just like him. Once it declared the shirt its own, it turned into a tiny little girl. Meanwhile, he watches the Mandrora children fight against the dry earth as their leaves wither and roots crack, even though he had already cleared every weed. Curious, he digs around and finds the soil full of worms and junk that are stopping the plant from growing right. He realizes too late that he should have prepared the soil sooner, a mistake that could have put the Mandra kids in danger. So he decides to fix it by building a garden as big as his own house. Suddenly, a mechanical girl stepped right in front of him and said hello. He's caught off guard when she finally speaks. She asks if the house is his, and he nods, telling her that it is. Without hesitation, she decides he must be from the demon realm, so he decides to play along by asking which tribe she's from, leaving her confused as she tries to bluff by claiming she's from a distant land beyond the waterfall that he'd never find, prompting him to joke if that means she's from the coconut tribe. And without missing a beat, she nods with such pride that it looks like the most obvious thing in the world. When he asks her about the shirt, she says that in her tribe, whoever finds something owns it, and he laughs at her logic, lets her keep it, and wonders why she is so far out here. She explains that she was kicked out of her tribe and shyly asks if she can stay with him, saying it feels safe because there are no bugs and there's a real house. She fidgeted with her thumbs, as if she were practicing for a puppy audition. She wanted a quiet place to rest, so he agreed on one condition. She had to help with the chores. Her eyes sparkle with excitement as she eagerly asks what she needs to do, and he tells her they must clear a vegetable patch to give the mandras a proper home. Without a second's doubt, she snatches the stick, stands tall with confidence, and claims she's ready for the task. Then she digs through the dirt so fast and hard it's like it's made of soft sponge cake. He stares as she tears through the ground, wondering if she's just terrible at acting normal or if she has no clue how regular kids even behave. He finally introduces himself and asks for her name, but she pauses, clearly startled because she has no name to give. After getting ideas from the flowers she saw earlier, she confidently states her name is Kim Nari, and even though he knows she just copied it from Forthia, she stands her ground and repeats it with a serious expression. Soon the patch is ready, and Cheon even builds a neat little stone fence around it. Seeing the mandra roots, so full of life, makes him wish he had started this work a long time ago. But then Kim suddenly stops talking and goes very quiet. He spots the change and asks her why she is crying. She dries her eyes and tells him the mandragoras look like her friends, which makes him stop and think if something as warm as friendship can ever exist in the lab. Before he can ask any more, a shrill, high-pitched screech suddenly slices through the forest. He tells her that monsters are just hunting each other, but Kim curls up in worry because she saw a little chick earlier and is now afraid it might be in trouble. Chan nods as she points out the bite marks, and he bluntly warns that it won't last long before something eats it. Seeing her shaking, he realizes she wants to save it but feels too scared, so when she whispers that she can't save monsters because her mind is still controlled, he gently suggests that if she goes back for it, they might both survive. And that was all it took to have her on her feet and sprinting. While wasp-like monsters with rows of sideways teeth tear at the wounded chick, Kim crashes into the scene like a furious tornado and kicks a creature's head clean off, promising to save the bird no matter what. While fighting, she suddenly remembers how the other Chimera kids hated her because she always won, which forced them into the most dangerous experiments where many would lose. They ripped the plush toy from her hands, slammed her to the floor, and demanded she let them win for a change. Even though they shouted that she should never have been born while kicking her over and over, she just kept following orders because she didn't get why they were so angry. Now facing the monsters, she screams for them to stop and tells them it's wrong to bully someone weaker, then punches the last wasp right out of this world, while back at the house, Kyan calmly feeds mana to the mandra roots like a cool plant dad. When Kim runs back toward him clutching the chick and screaming for help, he rushes to calm her down and tell her to breathe. As he leans in closer, the tiny fluff ball suddenly seems oddly like a friend he once knew. Kim cries and panics, terrified that the tiny ball of fur is about to die. Cheon stays calm, gently pours a bit of mana into the tiny fluff ball to check the wound, and then relaxes as he realizes it isn't serious. Every monster's magic holds a secret story all its own. Even though it shrank and changed color, Cheon instantly knows it's the same creature he skinned back then. He strikes a detective's pose, puzzling over why it shrunk so much, while Kim keeps asking if it's going to die. But Cheon tells her it's just a hungry, shrunken thing that will bounce back once it's fed. He claims that once he pours mana into it, the thing will heal itself if they just leave it alone. Suddenly, Kim is pulled back into a terrifying memory where she sees her broken doll lying in that dark lab. She spoke in a shaky voice, saying they couldn't just leave it alone because it kept flopping over like a sad pancake. She holds it tight, gives it puppy eyes, and promises to take good care of it if she can keep it. Kyan smiles and warns that the creature might get too big to manage, but she replies that she'll just feed it a little bit. Under the weight of her adorable attack, he gives in and jokes that her eyes sparkle like fireworks, calling her a guard bird before the fluffy creature blinks in confusion, locks on a Chaeyon, and lets out a low, menacing coo. Kim jumps at the noise, screaming with delight that it's finally speaking, while the bird just gazes around, confused about the nightmare it just woke up in. She wraps her arms around it once more as it struggles uselessly, while Chaeyon stands there frozen, not knowing how to handle the crazy situation. The fluffball yells again, demanding to be let go, and Chaeyon is shocked to find he can actually understand the creature. After a few moments, Kim finishes wrapping it up like a mummy and proudly declares that the treatment is done. Then she says she's already picked a name for it, and while the squirming bird is still moving, she explains that since it acts like a pigeon, she'll call it Coo, which makes Chi laugh. The furious BB immediately launches into a rant at Kim for coming up with such a ridiculous name. Since she couldn't understand what it was saying, she dumped a whole bucket of water on its head, claiming it must be thirsty. She stops and looks puzzled, asking Chaeyon why the birds are now swollen like water balloons. He tells her to stop drinking for now, and she runs off to get some food. Chaeyon decides it's finally time to get a proper storage cabinet up and running because all their stuff is piling up. But when he tries to chop the wood, it snaps in half like flimsy cardboard. He's puzzled because he built the table and chair perfectly using the exact same trick. The fluffball stops his nonsense and shows that it's just soft wood, which means it won't work. Chan learns that the wood's color matters and asks which is strongest, but the bird freezes mid-answer after saying red when it realizes Chan finally gets it. It looks at Chaeyon with horror, wondering if he has been listening to it all along. It stares him down, stumbles up, and tries to read Chaeon's mind with a special power, but the attempt fails completely with no thoughts coming through. But Chaeyon just looks around with an innocent face and says he can't see any red trees nearby. While the bird panics, and he wonders if the plants grow elsewhere, he suddenly realizes his special mind powers have been blocked. Finally, it drops the pretense and plainly asks Chaeyon if he can hear it. Chaeyon says the words just pop into his mind without him really listening, but then he turns the tables by wondering how a monster can understand human speech that way. He thinks this bird is one of those rare, smart creatures that somehow survive the impossible odds, and it's the first time he's ever seen one up close. Chaeyon bluntly asks if it's the same bird from before, and the fluffy friend confirms it, saying the bird came back just to see him again. Because Chaeyon once saved its life, it decided to return the kindness if they ever crossed paths again. Chaeyon quickly asks for help, surprising BB, who sighs and agrees to lead him to the red trees while Kim sprints away from falling fireballs, screaming at her attacker to stop. Tears run down her face as she screams that it's too hot. Then, out of nowhere, an explosion knocks her face first into the ground. Her mind goes quiet with panic as she thinks the labs have caught her and she's lost. Right then, a figure with hair flowing wildly like a cheap anime extra stepped out of the flames. He checks his tracker and sees she is the mechanical beast they've been hunting. He charges up another attack, muttering that his life is just as at risk, and hurls a fireball at Kim, who stares in defeat until he steps in front of her and casually swats it away like a fly. Ku quickly tells him the tree directions can wait because the girl is the most important thing right now. Chaeyon sees that Kim is scared of fire and doesn't seem to be doing okay in her head. He chooses to put out the fire first, and the fluffy little one nods in agreement, saying that only a full trash bag would come after child. Rapunzel over there glares at Chaeyon, calls him a caveman, and vows to beat him up if he doesn't back off. Chaeyon retorts that the Rapunzel cosplayer is too talkative, which instantly makes him snap into a scream that Chaeyon is ruining his dramatic moment before he blasts a huge fireball at him. Chaeyon just flicks a finger and unleashes a Frisia attack, blowing it away as easily as a birthday candle. A huge explosion blasts behind Rapunzel, leaving him frozen in shock as he tries to make sense of what he just saw. Rubble crashes down on him, but it's already too late as he gets buried alive beneath the pile. A few moments later, Kyan walks up to Kim and asks if she's okay after she wipes her eyes and thanks him for putting out the fire, so he gives her some solid advice. Next time she's scared, she should just punch the fear itself. As he walks toward Rapunzel, he grabs her by the hair and starts talking her up, but then freezes mid-sentence, staring at the wig in his hand before realizing the poor guy underneath has a serious shiny egghead problem. Kim bursts out laughing at the bald guy's head and says he doesn't look scary anymore, while our boy glances at her, wondering how she ever let someone so weak push her around. The Phoenix Fluff Ball steps in and uses his power to show Kim everything he went through. This power lets him jump straight into someone's memories and let everyone else see them. Inside that vision, he sees a crazy scientist laughing maniacally, as if he just created pure evil. The man steps closer to the half-awake Kim and sees her slowly waking up. With fingers burning like tiny torches, he begins hurting her, as if it were just a test to see how strong she really is. Watching that makes Cheon gently pat Kim on the head to praise her. Then he decides to help her break free from her old pain, taking one small step at a time before looking at the little phoenix and asking what they should do with the egg. Kim's eyes sparkle with a wicked plan as they tie the unlucky man to a huge rock and dangle him over a waterfall, claiming the water will put out his fire and make him stop being scary. When a guy wakes up, he looks totally confused and quickly realizes this is not what he signed up for. Kim crosses her arms and calls him a bad bald man again, just for fun. So our boy sighs and tells her not to judge people by their looks, but she just gives him a glare while holding a pot like a weapon. Gu asks what he's up to, and Kyan replies that he's just grabbing a bit of water to cook up some ramen. Kim instantly cheers up because Cheon's fish ramen is her all-time favorite, so he playfully teases her by asking if the coconut tribe eats it too. She stops for a moment, then beaming with pride, shouts that the coconut tribe absolutely loves it. Meanwhile, the bald man quietly checks his situation and realizes his captor must be an A+ rank hunter, or even stronger, possibly hiding secret powers like Cheon. While the group collects ingredients for ramen, the bald man just stares at them with a blank expression. Thinking that dangling someone from a waterfall while eating noodles right next to him feels a bit too extreme, Kim bursts out of the water like a mini-sea monster clutching 3 fish in her arms, only for our hero to glance at her haul and tell her to toss 2 back since he's not running a seafood market. The bald man stands aside, torn between horror and confusion, wondering if throwing that sea creature into his ramen will turn it into just salty ocean water. He also notices they've dumped way too much water into the pot, and starts wondering if these people even know what ramen is supposed to be. Before the chaos of cooking begins, he shouts to stop and promises to take over if they let him out. Soon enough, Baldy stands at his rough wooden table acting so dramatic it's like he's on a cooking show with fake spotlights beaming down on him. He whispers that while some may see ramen as just simple food, right now his entire life depends on this single bowl. As he looks into the hungry eyes watching him, he calls it pure and decides to use the oldest cooking method simply because he doesn't know any other way to make it. He trusts his gut to pour just the right amount of water for 3 bowls, then drops in the noodles and soup once the pot starts to boil. He figures it will take about 4.5 minutes, so without a watch, he starts counting the seconds by feeling his heartbeat. After counting about 200 bounces, he tosses the noodles into the air to give them that perfect springy bounce. After finally finishing, he sighs that kimchi would have been perfect, but since he's stuck in the demon realm, this ramen will do just fine, and when he presents it with pride, they stare in stunned silence before diving right in. The first bite sends him straight to flavor heaven. Kim, with his fluffy appearance, looked truly amazed that the food could taste this good, while Cheon focused entirely on inhaling his meal like a man on a mission. A little while later, the group is crammed in there, leaving the bald man to wait awkwardly for their decision. Cheon stares at him, asking what reward he wants for making those magical noodles, and promises to grant any wish. The bald man didn't hesitate, dropped to his knees to ask Cheon for guidance, and introduced himself as Namaseok. Our hero looks at the man with a puzzled frown and asks what kind of help he means. Nam says Cheon is the strongest person he's ever known, so he thinks Cheon must have built this house to practice there for a long time. He brags about cooking anything, flashes fake chef titles, and mentions working with his dad at a fry station just to look real. Wanting to seem helpful, Nam volunteers to carry supplies between the human and demon worlds, offers to pay for training, and finally admits he just wants to become an A-class hunter. Our boy naturally asks why he attacked Kim. Nam hesitates to ask if Cheon is the machine creature, but she cuts him off by saying she is from the coconut tribe. Nam instantly gets it and plays along, claiming the attack was purely personal with no interest in money, fame, or the child, just to pass his hunter exam. After hearing those words, Cheon folds his arms and challenges him to a fight, but before he can answer, Kim Nari steps forward to demand a rematch with her fiery uncle. Nam sneers and warns her not to underestimate him, but Kyan dares him to shatter a boulder of adamantite, a metal tougher than diamond. Nam admits only A-class hunters can do it, but before he can blink, Kim shatters the rock and crushes his confidence with one clean move. It turns out Nam was born with ridiculous talent and awakened his powers when he was just 8, and while most kids were still trying to figure out multiplication tables. Since then he trained like a possessed man and climbed the ranks so fast it made older hunters question their life choices. By the time he turned 20, he was already a strong B+ hunter with a bright future waiting for him. He dreamed of becoming the greatest hunter in all the realms, a name that would echo forever. But fate played a dirty trick by giving him the thinning hair of an old man right when he was just starting to grow up. By the time he was in his 20s, his once thick hair became a sad memory, leaving him with a shiny, balding scalp that looked like it had finally given up. He tried every possible cure, but the doctors finally told him to stop throwing away his money and face the truth. And just like that, the handsome prodigy lost everything he'd built, his hair gone along with his confidence, leaving his path as a hunter dead in its tracks. Then, one fateful day, he stumbled upon a TV interview with Dr. Han, the scientist who had just found a strange liquid metal in the demon realm. The old man told the story of how he accidentally spilled some hair on his head and, by some strange magic, ended up with a thick, silky mane even at age 90. Nam was on the verge of tears from sheer hope. When the host asked if he'd found a cure for baldness, the doctor instead admitted he had used that same liquid to build a living machine. Nam was on the verge of going crazy, sure that people needed a fix for bald heads far more than a fancy toaster with legs. A few days later, he found out the machine beast had slipped away into the demon realm. With no laws to stop him in the demon realm, he chased the metal straight for his bald head, only to get knocked out cold by a kid. Our hero jokes that Nam missed every single hit, but Chan tells him to train harder or he'll never be worthy of sparring, while Nam promises to improve and our guy finishes his redwood shelf. Thanks Gu for the inspiration, glances at Nam, and despite getting beaten all day, looks calm and focused as he quietly summons a blazing scythe, leading Gu to admit Nam might be good with fire, but is still learning from a kid. Until Cheyenne calmly reminds him that Kim is no ordinary child. As the battle rages on, everyone can clearly see the truth now. Nam rushes in with his burning scythe, but Kim turns into liquid just in time to slip away and reform instantly to kick him right in the face, sending him flying into a nearby cliff with a loud crash. Kim stands straight and says she is no longer scared of the fire. Nam lies there stunned, wondering if this is where his dreams finally hit a wall. He somehow forces himself to stand up, refusing to quit even though things look terrible, and while he dares her to another round, he finally stops when he feels blood running from his nose. Chan stares at him and asks how long he's been stuck in the demon realm, and Nam wipes his face before telling him it's been 9 days. Our hero warns Nam that the Mona's corruption will kill him if he stays, and Nam nods in understanding. Cheon then reveals that Nam is completely shocked by his potential to reach a class level he never imagined. The man confessed that he'd given up on anyone who failed the hunter exam for 3 years, including himself after 6 tries, but Cheon told him not to quit because his mana just wasn't ready yet. So after Cheon advised him to purify it when he gets back, Nam bowed respectfully and called him brother. Cheon promises to train him to become an A-rank hunter one day. Soon Nam stands by the portal ready to go, and when he asks what they want from the human world, everyone shouts for ramen. So Kim smiles and tells him to stay safe while Nam promises to beat her next time. Right before walking through the portal, he spins around to ask if anyone has spotted his wig, but Cheon honestly has no idea. Once he's gone, Go worries that Nam might not be trustworthy. Cheon asks what he means, and the small fluffball replies that Nam could betray them and bring other hunters their way. So Cheon asks for his opinion on the guy, and Go quietly admits that everything Nam said was true. Cheon becomes even more eager to train Nam after their talk, and Kim finally asks if he can really understand the fluffy bird. Cheon nods and casually notes that he built the storage shelf based on the bird's advice. Then when Kim asks if the room looks neat now, he replies that it was too dark to tell. Cheon catches on fast and pops up a few windows, letting the warm sunshine flood the room. Kim beams with joy at her fresh new look, sparking a plan to keep the room glowing after dark with glowing stones that Kyan suggests hanging from the ceiling like a soft night sky. A journey to the dangerous volcanic region that leaves Gu sweating with nervous worry. Gu quickly warns him that this is one of the most deadly hunting grounds around, and quietly adds that it's also where he was born. Cheon notices the way Gu's voice drops when he talks about home, and Kim catches it right away. She turns to Cheon and asks him what the bird said, noticing that he looks upset. Cheon tells Gu that he's too scared to go near the volcano, so he volunteers to head there by himself. Kim instantly says no to staying behind, claiming she's not scared of the fire anymore and wants to go with him. Cheon looks at Gu, who lets out a tired sigh and agrees to come along since he needs to run a few errands there anyway. With the team all set for the next adventure, Kyan packs their gear while strange mandrel roots nearby play with Nam's missing wig, completely ignoring the sadness their owner feels. Far away in a land of fire and rock, the ground shakes as if something huge is waking up just below the boiling surface. A dark beast raises its head and lets out a scary scream that bounces off the endless fire. It is whispered that even the bravest hunters would never step into the demon realm's 3 forbidden zones, and the fiery volcanic zone is one of them. First, the ash floating in the air is so hot it can roast human skin, and the burning gas mixed and melts straight through the lungs. Yet there's Kim, casually dipping her feet in molten magma like it's a damn hot spring. The tiny phoenix just stares, completely lost for words. The little fluff ball thinks it's normal for a non-human creature to handle heat so well, but what really grinds his gears is that our boy is totally fine, so the little guy just says, "I'm a chimera hunter." He looks human now, but he actually grew back into this shape after changing. He asks the phoenix if it's okay to come along, and the tiny fluff ball agrees, saying it's better than being alone again. Kim sees the two of them talking about something deep, so he leans in to join the chat, but then he remembers she once asked him about his past. She just laughs and says it's fine now that they're both from the demon realm. So they start climbing the volcano, and Kim points out a thick cloud of smoke rising from what looks like the peak. High above, they finally locate the glowing stones they came for, while down below, a huge flame toad is crying in pain. Just then, Kim spots another one right nearby. Master Gu soon sees that the toad is heartbroken because his mate died from the heat, leaving her eggs to cook alive on her back, and this sad thought weighs heavily on the fluffy little creature. That's when our hero hatches a plan, tells Kim to stay put, and leaps straight into the heart of the volcano. He lands right in front of the toad, who instantly gives him a furious glare like he's about to kill him. Suddenly, the beast throws a huge burst of fire right at him, but he just runs right through the heat and gives the toad a quick poke on its nose with his finger. That single tap causes the huge beast to crumble right before your eyes. It turns out Kain used cobra venom, a deadly poison strong enough to knock out even a flame toad that resists toxins, though it should only leave him unconscious for just a few minutes. Watching him step out of the fire without a scratch feels like magic, so Kim rushes to ask if he's okay, but he simply smiles and says he's fine because he carries special fire cells inside him that make him immune to everything. Even seeing some of the eggs already cooking doesn't stop him from carefully protecting the rest, so they can survive. When the daddy toad wakes up, he sees his eggs tied to his back and immediately swims over to say goodbye to his fallen partner. Then the beast springs high into the air and lands right next to Kim. He offers her just one wistful look, and she instantly feels cheered, convinced he's saying thank you. Kain knows his partner is watching him, but he lets the tiny bird keep daydreaming. Later, Kim began pulling out rocks nearly as big as her head. He tells her not to let one fall on her foot. The phoenix is so tired he slumps to the ground and feels terrible thinking about how he used to throw huge rocks around like they were tiny toys. He tells him not to help and to go meet his friends as planned, but this instantly angers the fluffball, who flaps his wings and chirps that monsters have no friends anyway since he's just leaving behind some gifts. Our hero is shocked to find that even smart monsters feel lonely, so the tiny fluffball, caught off guard, blurts out that he's helping only because he regrets not saying a proper goodbye before he left. Then the phoenix's voice drops, and he speaks seriously, saying that while his sharp mind helped him see the world's beauty, it also became his greatest burden. He had to watch others mindlessly devour creatures without a single thought, which made him feel utterly alone, like Albert Einstein trapped in a crowd of brainless monkeys. To escape the crushing loneliness, he left the herd, and now he doesn't really care if they survive because he never felt truly close to them. As the baby phoenix fights to free another stone from the wall, it suddenly pops loose and crashes down, causing a loud crack that Kim hears as she watches an egg shatter on the ground. She fears the phoenix did it, but our hero says the shell is just tough, and the baby must keep pushing until it's strong enough to break free on its own. Kim feels sorry for the little baby and wants to take it home, but the tiny phoenix suddenly explodes and shouts that it is too dangerous if it ever hatches. Chan remembers a perfect nest waiting for them, so he decides they'll take it along. Kim is so excited to carry the egg all the way that Gu, who's never seen one look like that before, can't even argue back when she reminds him it broke, because of him. Our boy promises the fluffball he'll keep them safe, so they keep digging, only for him to be shocked when the man with the bad haircuts shows up again, waiting for more. Nam eagerly offers to take the heavy bag from the crying stranger's hands, boasting he's strong enough, only for the bag to slam down when Cheon warns him it's too heavy, leaving Nam confused until he notices the man's tears and gently asks about the bandage on his face. Thinking he was in a fight, our boy says he never expected to be the kind of guy who always gets knocked around. Embarrassed, Nam quickly runs off to finish the food, and later Kim curiously asks our hero what he's making with the glowing stone, to which he explains it's for a light bulb. Kim is blown away by his clever idea and even more impressed by his huge heart for helping the flame toad. She jokingly says he's a real dad now, but Kim shuts up when he asks about her father from the coconut tribe, While nearby, a phoenix enjoying the warm sunset heat suddenly gets attacked by 3 men stacked on top of each other. The Mandrora at the top bounces off the ones below and dives in for a special drill attack. But the tiny troublemaker just bounces right off the white Jigglypuff, who is busy sunbathing. Later, Nam serves up a sweet potato dish that the kids are loving right now. He takes immense pride in his cooking, especially since his quick and easy recipe turns out to look absolutely amazing. Kim and Gu are blown away by it, but Shane insists on getting his earlier question answered before they can dig into their food. At first, Nam refuses to tell the story, but eventually, he admits that some top-tier hunters caught him while he was on his way to join the Hunters Association. They told him to stop draining their life force by breathing the same air, which made him furious and led to a fight that ended with the rest of the story. Nam admitted that just as his hair fell out quickly, so did his self-respect. Cheon asks when the next test is, and our boy says it will be in 60 days. So Cheon offers personal coaching to Nam, who jumps for joy until he learns his first job is washing Kim's dishes and scrubbing volcanic dust off shiny stones, leaving him utterly stunned. He asks about the special training, but our boy ruthlessly tells him to do it or he'll spend his whole life as a B-rank loser. With that settled, he packs up to go fishing with Kim, while Nam grits his teeth and pushes himself to work harder. And unlike what everyone thinks, he reached his success through hard work and never giving up. He is a true champion who keeps going until the very last moment. He drags the heavy bag deep into the forest. The scene moves to the river, where Kim gets frustrated because she can't catch a single fish. As she watches the bald man catch fish, jealousy swells in her chest, while Nam screams at his master for help since the hungry fish are a danger he can't face alone. Chaeyeon grows annoyed at his own uselessness and scolds him to just build a magic shield around his body, but the bald man keeps complaining that he still can't get his head around it. Chaeyeon asks him to grip his crystal tight. The instant his fingers brush it, every ounce of strength drains from his arms, leaving them shaking uncontrollably. Our hero says the rare stone inside holds raw magic that has been packed so tight it creates this effect. He notes that Nam's body is packed with magical energy, even though Nam can't use it well. So he pokes the bald guy in the chest and suddenly sees the magic flowing through him. Our hero tells Nam to feel the magic moving through those circuits. Sure enough, his arms are quickly wrapped in a glowing silver light. He tells Nam to grab the stone once more, letting his mana surge through his arms. Gathering every bit of strength he has left, the bald man powers up his special Sidama genes and lifts them straight over his head. Nam cackles like a madman once he gets it. His master's boring chore plan was genius all along. So he tells the thrift store One Punch Man to keep working while the hero pumps mana through his body, agreeing with tears of joy in his eyes. Later that night, the three of them slept under the soft glow of the shining stone. Gu can't get a wink of sleep after his nap in the afternoon. Suddenly, he wakes up and sees Kim slipping away quietly in the middle of the night. He walks after Kim outside and sees her looking down at the ground. She was heartbroken to see the only dress she'd get dirty. She gets down on her knees by the stream and gently scrubs it, praying to make it clean once more. The baby phoenix watches quietly until Cheon arrives to ask why she's washing clothes at midnight, only for Gu to scoff and remind him she's a girl with nothing else to wear. That made Kyan stop in his tracks, suddenly realizing that while he'd never minded his own clothes, he'd completely ignored what she needed. Kim steps out of the water feeling proud, but when she sees Gu and Cheon nearby, Kyan softly says the night air is nice and he's just taking a walk with his fluff ball, then asks if she wants to join her, which she nods to nervously. Chaeyeon gently asks her to pause, fastens a rope belt around her waist, tucks in some flowers, and makes her eyes light up as she exclaims that he looks wonderful. Chaeyeon beamed with a smile, telling us that Fuchsia happens to be his very favorite flower. A sudden rustle in the bushes makes Kim jump, but Chaeyeon calmly tells her it's just a steel grasshopper. On the way back, he gently asks if she needs any clothes or shoes, sounding more like a father than a friend, but Kim looks confused and says she loves the outfit he gave her. The next morning, Kyan walks into the human world near the slums of District 13, worried that Kim has had to wear the same clothes too long, but the locals just stare at him with suspicion while he thinks about how bringing her along to pick her own outfit might have been better, until he suddenly remembers that facing this strange new place alone might be too much for her right now. He chuckles quietly while hunting for a clothing shop near the slums when a young boy rushes up, offering to show him a cheap place for a mere 10,001, only for Chian to reply that he'll pay once he gets change, making the boy think Chian is just another broke rookie who got robbed in the other realm. The boy asks Kyan if he has money for clothes, tells him to follow, and admits that while he usually takes payment first, he's making an exception just this time. Chaeyeon smiles warmly as the kid introduces himself as Bong Su. So, Chaeyeon shares his own name, but Bonggu just grins and says he'll call him Big Brother instead. As they walk through the changed slums, Chaeyeon quietly notices the shifts around him, but before he can think more, Bonggu suddenly asks if he looks newly awakened, so Chaeyeon just raises an eyebrow and asks if he really seems that way. Bonggu explains that since he arrived from the portal with nothing, he guessed Chaeyeon had been robbed in the demon realm, so he tries to comfort him by saying it happens to everyone sooner or later. Chaeyeon chuckles and notes that Bonggu knows a lot for someone so young, prompting an offended Bonggu to insist he's already 17 and only looks small because he hasn't eaten enough. As they keep walking, Chaeyeon spots a gang of shady thugs hanging around, and Bonggu notices his glance and quickly warns him not to step into District 13. He explains that since the space gang from District 11 moved in, the area has earned a terrible reputation, police have stopped showing up, and the place is now practically lawless, leaving them standing in the safer edge of the slums known as District 12. Chaeyeon stands quiet, wondering if the orphanage in District 13 is still standing after all this time. Over in another town, a tired shop owner stares at her buy one get one free sign, wishing she hadn't opened a children's clothing store in a place where raising kids is nearly impossible. And just as she wonders if she should completely change her business, the door flies open. Bonggu steps in with a bright smile to call her Madam Park, but she snaps back that she's not married and tells him to stop, so he laughs and heads straight to pick out clothes for Chaeyeon. Park yells at Bonggu for bringing broke hunters into her shop with a huge pile of unpaid bills, while the boy gets his cheeks pinched and tries to say he couldn't know if the man had any money left. The shop owner notes that Chaeyeon doesn't look like the kind of person who carries cash around. Bong-soo claims the guy is handsome and points out she was the one who told him to bring in pitiful hunters who reminded her of her late brother. But Park fires back that she only said that once or twice and warns that if this continues, they will both end up on the streets. Bonggu snaps that he never asked for her help in the first place, but Park acts like a tired caretaker, telling him to go wash up and promising to pay him afterward. Just then, Chan jumps in to calmly offer to buy clothes, pulling out a $10 million check and admitting it's every last cent he has. The place leaves both Park and Bong-soo completely stunned. Park instantly shifts into formal mode, while Bong-soo rushes to fetch a chair and set out cookies and drinks for their new VIP guest, and as Bonggu ties a napkin around Chaeyeon's neck, Park excitedly mentions they sell everything from adult fashion to kids' clothes, though Chaeyeon simply asks for preschool girl outfits, a few for himself, and some shoes. The shop suddenly feels brighter because kids' clothes are a favorite thing, so she shows him the new spring and summer picks, all lace and pink, while Bonggu rubs his shoulders like an overly excited helper. At the checkout, Park beams with delight after selling over 100 items and nearly emptying her stock, only to have Chaeyeon decline shipping her clothes and offer to carry them out himself. He then gives Bong-soo a suit and 100 grand, saying he still owes him one last favor. Bong-soo feels uneasy as he leads the worried Chaeyeon toward the end he promised. As Chaeyeon steps inside and Bong watches his mind race with doubt between a kind stranger and a dangerous trap, Chaeyeon eventually returns to hand him a key and a clean room, promising that he can finally stop sleeping on the streets. He mentions that he paid a full year's rent, including meals, and then turns to leave. Bonggu mutters nervously that this is how kidnapping starts, but Chaeyeon reminds him he led him there, and as the portal opens behind them, Bonggu questions what the price is since they barely know each other, yet Chaeyeon gave him so much. Chaeyeon tells the boy that he looks like him from long ago when he lived the same life, warns him to be safe, and then the portal whisks him away back to the demon realm. Nam feels a wave of relief as Chaeyeon returns, while Kim rushes over, frantic to know where he vanished, only for Chaeyeon to smile and reveal he bought her a gift, sending her into a fit of excited joy. Gu stares in shock at the giant pile of clothes he brought home while Nam sulks that none of it is for him. Kim squeals over how cute the dresses look, and Chaeyeon gently tells her to try on whichever she likes. But as everyone admires the new clothes, the egg inside the log cabin begins to stir. As Chaeyeon folds the fresh clothes, he feels strangely calm from this simple job. Kim suddenly dashes out of the room, wearing a silk dress and a ribbon hat, looking like a tiny princess. Chan asks if that's her favorite, and she shyly admits she wants to try on a few more. After her suspender pants fail, she slips into one of Chaeyeon's shirts and acts like a ghost to make it work. She tries on clothes with such wild energy that Gu and Chan can't help but laugh, until finally she picks the hoodie with the chick on it, because it reminds her of Gu. Chaeyeon asks her to put away the rest of the clothes, and she nods right away. The Phoenix then asks Chaeyeon where he plans to store all the clothes, since they're running out of room. Chaeyeon promises to fix the problem by building a dressing room with a walk-in closet, which means Guli worries more trees will be cut, but Chaeyeon just grins and says he already has an apprentice to do the hard work, then calls out to Nam, telling him it's time for special training. Nam bursts in with high energy, dragging along Cheon's leather suit and insisting it's just for training. Cheon looks confused, so Nam tells him the suit is covered in a deadly poison that nearly killed him just from touching it. He admits it's shocking that Cheon wears the same outfit every day like it's nothing, shrugs and tells Nam to just wear it, and while Nam freezes in disbelief, Cheon orders him to put it on and start chopping wood, with Gu stepping in to show him which trees to cut, even though Nam protests that the clothes might kill him, until Kim suddenly screams that the egg is moving. Everyone rushes over as Kyan shouts that something is about to hatch. As Nam nervously worries the creature might be a disaster, and Kim confidently insists it will be something cute, their argument is cut short when the egg suddenly cracks and a tiny eye peeks out from the shell. As the creature begins to break free, the two of them respond in totally opposite ways. Out of the shadows crawls a scary monster with sharp claws, a scaled body, and a snapping tongue, only to turn out as a cute chick-snake hybrid that tilts its head and chirps like a bird, much to Nam's surprise. Nam stands frozen in shock while Kim leaps up with pure joy. Suddenly, the tiny thing shoots right at Nam's face, and he screams so loud the whole cabin shakes. Later, out in the fields, Gu taps Nam's head with a stick to make him haul wood faster, though Nam begins to wonder if he is just hallucinating at this point, while the poison seeping through his suit makes every breath feel heavier, and he silently admires how Cheon used to wear the same outfit without flinching. Inside the house, Cheon finishes folding clothes just as Kim bursts in to say the monster is now peacefully eating bread and acting well, making Cheon smile and guess that the creature knows who saved it. They begin brainstorming names until they settle on Sasa, a choice drawn from its snake-like nature. As soon as they pick a name, the tiny beast jumps from Kim's grasp, and she chases it, while Gu smiles at their bond and Cheon asks if the phoenix knows what a mandragora root is since he's never seen one, only for Gu to admit he doesn't know either and warn him to watch his step. When Cheon asks why, Gu explains that monsters from the volcanic lands crave rare plant types, and especially hunt those packed with powerful demonic energy. Just as the tiny snake slides toward the mandra field, Gu whispers that it might be the creature's very own enemy. All eyes are on the two sides as the air grows thick with tension. Kim wants to jump in and stop the fight, but Kyan shakes his head, explaining that in the demon realm, monsters must prove their strength on their own, and since they are both young, he thinks it's best to let them sort out naturally. The fight starts when Sasa lunges its claws at the tiniest mandragora, but the bigger one quickly steps in to stop the blow. The mandragoras stand in a tight triangle, holding their breath for the next move. Before long, the second root monster lunges back to strike, but Sasawa's tail blocks the blow while little Sasa smiles confidently, even as Gyuli urges her not to get careless just yet. Immediately after, the tiniest mandra leaps from behind and bonks Sasa on the cheek with its small fist. The hit is light but enough to make Sasa cry and run away. Kim rushes to hug the scared creature until it calms down, while Cheon declares the mandra roots the winners, and both Nam and Gu agree the fight was a real show. Cheon yells for everyone to get back to work while Gu keeps hitting Nam on a shiny head, and far away across the big sea, an eagle named Chimera soars quickly over the waves like it's rushing somewhere. Back at the house, Gu keeps urging Nam to pull the timber harder while Kim and Sasa slather it in slime to keep the water out. After Cheon finishes folding the laundry and takes a moment to look around, he feels satisfied that the long day is finally ending. After 2 nights without sleep, Nam tosses aside the cursed leather shirt that nearly drove him crazy, finally exhaling with relief. He inspects the brand new changing room, checking every corner to see if it matches his plan and wondering if it looks good, but Kyan stops his doubts by telling him it turned out even better than he expected. Kim catches a faint floral smell drifting through the room, and before long, everyone else notices it too. So, she asks what causing the calming, flower-like scent that makes everyone feel so peaceful. Chan says Gu picked a fragrant wood so the clothes would naturally carry a lovely scent. Kim smiles as she sees that even the mandragora roots and Sasa plants seem to love the sweet smell. Nam blinks at the name Sasa, realizing he's never heard it before, while Cheon suggests they could always swap it for something better if anyone comes up with one. After a funny naming game with suggestions like Snake Chick and Grand Footsteps in the Drawer, Cheon gives up and decides the creature will just stay called Sasa. Then Gu asks what they should do next. Cheon suggests building a fence around their house to keep intruders away, worrying that even powerful monsters or hunters might show up one day without warning, though Nam doubts anyone would ever willingly approach such a creepy place. He says that in the coastal area, there's a kind of heavy yellow quartz that is denser than black stone. He explains that using the glowing stone for the fence will make it strong and softly light up at night, turning their home into a warm, glowing campsite. Kim leaps with joy at the thought of going to the beach, but Nam instantly panics at the mere idea of the coast. And just before he can make an excuse, a sudden nosebleed saves him at the perfect moment. Acting weak, he plays the part of a damsel in front of Chaeyon and says he must leave for the human realm to drain his demonic energy. So Chaeyon agrees, but asks him to take care of the Mandraur roots in case they return late. Before heading out, Nam warns Chaeyon that the coastal area is a death trap even A-rank hunters dare not enter, because two terrifying monster hybrids with bird heads and human bodies now rule the land. Thinking about it even makes Chaeyon stop for a beat. While out at the coast, a crew of hunters is already out looking to catch one of those chimeras. One of them fires a tracker shot at the flying beast and hits it square, but the creature doesn't even flinch and just keeps soaring ahead as if nothing had happened. Thinking the beast was running away, the hunters relax and joke that the whole disaster was just a made-up story, with one of them even suggesting they chase it down to finish the job. But their leader stops them, telling them to wait for the monster to go back to its lair, before noting that there are two chimneys in the area, so it's safer to track both than to chase just one blindly. A young hunter can't help but ask how the chimeras are still living after 60 years, and why they still look so much like people even though they have turned into monsters. The captain explains that we are failed experiments from an old project meant to help humanity, and since the chimeras were once a success, he says the failures like us must be destroyed. Suddenly, a hunter sees the beast dive sharply from the sky, racing back at them faster than a bullet. The captain's eyes go wide, and he screams for everyone to put up a barrier right now. With a mighty flap of its wings, the chimera smashes the hunter's shield like glass, sending shards flying and knocking them down. They quickly learn they've made a terrible mistake by choosing the wrong battle to fight. The captain looks up in terror and screams for them to stop. Before the next strike hits, Kim steps in with a metal shield to block the attack. The chimera freezes in midair, startled by the sight of another like it, and both drop down carefully while Kim claims the Sparrow Uncle was bullying people and Chaeyon whispers that it seems the opposite is true. One of the injured hunters calls his captain to warn him about a strange machine creature, and since the captain is confused, the hunter shows him the tracker device. Chaeyon realizes right away that Kim is wearing a tracker from the human world. He turns to the bird chimera and asks if it remembers them sharing a room, telling it that living a long life means seeing everything, while the creature struggles to recall and the hunters whisper about running away. Chaeyon warns that if they let those two get away, it'll only make things worse for everyone, so it's best to end this now. Then a faint memory surfaces in the chimera's mind. The smell from Chaeyon suddenly paints a picture of the lab where they used to lie next to each other. The same sharp smell of the chimera cell fusion drug from the TD8 experiments hits him, and the creature calls out his old number, 17, as the truth finally dawns on him. The story jumps back to the past, showing Bird Boy sprinting through the forest with his sister safely on his back. Just then, his sister showed signs of the experiment's side effects, making him doubt if bringing her along was the right call. Leaving her behind in that cursed lab might just have been the smartest call after all. When his sister weakly says his wings are warm, he bursts into tears, crushed by his own inability to help. His wings are too small to carry them both, so he asks her to hold on just a bit more. Right as he quietly wishes for help to arrive, he is suddenly caught in the light of our boy's flashlight, who points it straight at him without a clue. When Bird Boy asks Chaeyon why he's there, the calm reply is that he heard the leaders planning to kill him and came to warn him. But Bird Boy finds the idea strange and instead delivers a harsh truth. Both him and his sister will be killed by a cursed explosion in 3 days, so he suggests leaving his sister behind since she isn't on the kill list and can take pills to live longer. But Bird Boy snaps back, saying a guy who never felt those side effects can never really understand. He remembers how terrible things got once, so badly that his sister begged him to get out, saying she'd rather spend one more normal day outside than rot inside that living hell. As he understands that living well matters more than living long, his wings suddenly grow to their full, magnificent size. His eyes burn with raw determination as he yells at our boy to stop talking and start fighting. But Chaeyon just stares at him with cold, dead eyes before suddenly opening a gate. Birdhead is stunned to find out that a simple test subject like him actually has a gate key, so the other person stares him down and gives him two choices. His human cells might get ruined by demon power once he steps through, or his demon cells could soak it up and wake up. He figured it was a safe bet because the detonator wouldn't go off if he stepped into the demon realm. But Birdhead still couldn't shake the doubt that he'd ever make it through alive. In a perfect place, a magic shield would guard both your body and mind, but those young children couldn't do it. Yet Birdhead still grabbed the deal to save that biscuit, and as he left, he felt sorry for never learning each other's names after living together so long. So he told them his name was Yubum, and they gave him theirs back. Back in the present, our hero asks the hunter his name, but he just stares blankly with no idea what is going on. When he asks why he was even there, they just stare back at him with blank faces, acting like cavemen who have no idea at all. He sends them through the portal, and Yu immediately figures out that he used the Oblivion flower cells to wipe their memories of the last 3 hours. He calls you by name, and the guy feels honored that he remembered. Kim wonders if Mr. Sparrow should really be their friend, but our boy insists he belongs to the Sparrow tribe. Bro turns to Kim and asks if the Sparrow and Coconut tribes are really good friends, and she nods right away. As you stare at her in total confusion, Kim suddenly apologizes for thinking you were the bad guy. Afterward, they go to Yu's house, which is just a giant nest with a roof. There, the group has a blast trying a unique clam dish that tastes unlike anything they've ever had. And while Kim gets really excited for more, Yu humbly apologizes because he doesn't have enough ingredients to make another batch. But the little goblin isn't stopped, so he runs off happily to catch twice as many clams as he needs. Now that they're finally alone, Yu reveals he only survived the demon realm because of his special immortal cells, then immediately asks our hero if he's ever thought about taking revenge on the lab, to which Xian admits he has thought about it, but isn't in a rush since life is actually going well. After setting that aside, our boy sees Yu is good with his wings and asks if he can turn his head back into a human. He admits he can fix it, but he won't because his sister's face is ruined forever, and she'd feel terrible if he became normal while she stayed broken. After everything, our boy finally asks if he knows he'll only last another month at best. Yu is stunned by what he knows, while Birdhead flashes back to his life after leaving Earth. He practiced nonstop just to build up enough magical power to withstand the dark energy of demons. For a little while, everything was okay because his magic and the demon realm's power stayed perfectly balanced. But one day, that wild energy took over his sister and tore a huge hole in her mana. While he was trying to stop the damage, he accidentally broke his own core for good. Since then, he has just managed to keep going while his sister has been surviving on sleeping fruit, spending most of her life asleep to slow the disease's spread. That's when Cheon remembers that mandra roots can heal any mana hole, no matter how bad the damage is. In a shadowy room far away, fruit lies scattered on the floor, while Birdhead's sister sits all alone in the silence. At first, she trembles in quiet agony. Suddenly, the dark power inside her explodes and swallows her whole, leaving her completely in its grip. After returning to the boys, Yu is shocked to learn that he and his sister can actually be saved from their hopeless condition. Our guy admitted that after he was gone, he spent his time studying alchemy and figuring out how to fix the mana hole damage by boiling water with mandriga roots. Though roots are just a tiny part of the plant, they hold almost all of its life force and are incredibly powerful. Cheon never guessed that the plants he grew just for fun would turn out to be worth so much. He even steps in to brew the medicine himself, because you can't cross over to the human world to find an alchemist. As his payment, he asks the guy to watch over the 2 airheads he'll be leaving behind. Before he leaves, he asks you what payment he has, and since the hunter has no money, he instead gives him a backpack filled with hunting gear. So our boy heads back to Earth and asks his oldest friend, Bong Su, to help him track down a master alchemist. Bongu recalls the new branch that opened in the slums a year ago, and as the boy talks about it, Chan notices sandbags tied to his arms while Bongu proudly explains that he uses them to train his body. The boy proudly declares his dream to grow strong enough to follow in his big brother's footsteps and punch his way into the demon realm. Outside, Bongu shares that the new boss there is famous for his amazing work. But when no one arrives, they find a manager pacing nervously, worried about his missed payment. Bongu instantly sees that the poor man is being hunted by loan sharks, but the kid shrugs it off, saying that taking loans in the slums is just a necessary part of doing business. The manager used to be a highly respected man who had spent over 20 years delivering great results at the city branch. But then, for no one could explain, he was suddenly demoted and cast out into the slums. Bongsu said his old boss was the greediest jerk alive, famous for stealing money that should have helped the slums and other neighborhoods. He thinks the manager was fired just for having the nerve to expose those scumbags. But as soon as the manager with the sad eyes spots Bongsu, his face lights up. The kid hurriedly tells him that his big brother is looking for an alchemist. The manager, who looks like a total pro just by standing there, pats Bongsu on the head and cheerfully invites them both inside. In the meantime, a bored alchemist nearby is losing patience because his boss is useless and no business is coming for weeks. The grumbling cuts off dead in its tracks when a manager storms in with Chayon and yells at the assistant manager to bring them drinks. Our boy cuts right through the small talk and demands that the man brew purified mana water from mandragora roots, since he's an A-rank alchemist. The manager is shocked that Chayon knows his rank and, with clear regret, admits he doesn't have any high-grade materials left in stock. That's when our hero pulls out a mandra root that pulses with so much dark power it feels like it's alive. Both alchemists are so shocked by how fresh it looks, as if it was just picked moments ago. When it comes to payment, Kyan casually tosses out the best materials from the coast, leaving everyone's jaws dropped. Once the duo has finished gushing over their rare finds, he asks if they've gathered enough. The manager chuckles, says it's plenty, and heads over to get it appraised. Chan looks around the room and sees another mandora root floating dead in a jar of water. The manager says it's long gone, though he wasn't sure if that was actually true. Our boy pours a tiny stream of his energy inside, and the shriveled root suddenly twitches. The manager's eyes bulged in shock as he insisted that despite pouring tons of mana into that mandriga, it never reacted the way it did now. Suddenly, the door flies open and his old boss storms in like he owns the whole place. Without a second's delay, the man starts mocking the shabby, empty office, laughing that he heard high-quality items were supposed to show up here. Manager Kim's teeth ground together in anger as he instantly realizes his spineless assistant sold him out. G.I. Jong Ly, a stranger who calls himself the Gold City boss, promises Chaeyon a huge reward for the valuable stuff he found. Chaeyon feels so furious at that guy's sneering grin and mocking laugh that he just wants to punch him right in the face. Setting that aside, he spots the man's last name and asks if he is related to the Nobel Prize winner, Bokdoan. Hearing that, Gong bursts out laughing once more and proudly claims to be the great man's grandson. But for him, this just proves that corruption runs deep in his family's blood. His mind flashes back to the dark days when Bakdok whipped test subjects until they were barely alive, treating them like they were less than human. His anger bursts out like a volcano, sending a shockwave that knocks Gijijong to his knees while he sneers, wondering if it's a family habit to crush people and take whatever they want. Gijijong shakes with denial and shouts that the words he's hearing are just nonsense. With eyes burning with deadly rage, Chan warns him to choose his next words very carefully and asks in a cold tone if the TDA lab is still open. When the name was spoken, Gong frowned and insisted he'd never heard of such a place, but Chaeyon narrowed his eyes and asked if Gong truly knew nothing about his grandfather's Chimera lab, only for Gue Zhang to scoff and call it slander, claiming his grandfather's research was meant to help people for generations. He boasts that the man gave his whole fortune to the victims of the Gate incident, which is how he won the Nobel Prize. That earns a dark grin from Chaeyon, who mutters that maybe the old psycho did change his ways before he died. Still, he sighs that it's a shame the brat left so early for a hunt, then mutters to himself if falling out the window over the gate might have helped him get that ready. Gujong's eyes widened in horror, because that incident was supposed to stay a secret from everyone. Of course, Kaya knows he was the one who shoved the old man off to begin with. The crumbling fossil was about to blast the Chimera kids into a portal, so he chose to let Bakdok face that danger right next to them. With that settled, he commands G.I. Jong to examine what's left of his grandfather's lab and send a report before he returns, even as he struggles to accept the irony of meeting Bakdok's grandson after all these years, especially since he was only 9 when the mad scientist kidnapped him. Now that he was turned into a mindless weapon, he only thought about finishing his orders, and time slipped by before he even noticed. He might not realize the lab now goes by a totally different name, but just then, Manager Kim walks back and balancing 2 bottles of glowing green mana water. Chaeyon is truly amazed by how fast the A-Rank Pro works, while the honest manager quietly figures out exactly how much the materials cost. As a reward, our hero gives him a private deal. He'll keep bringing rare ingredients, and the alchemist will take care of all the brewing. The chubby uncle was totally surprised by his generous offer. The man breaks into tears of joy because he finally realizes he can buy his building back and get rid of all the debt weighing on him. As Chaeyon wonders why he's suddenly crying, the manager finally opens up about his hard life growing up in the slums. His parents took on a massive debt so he could go to school, even though they were so poor they could barely afford to eat. He worked nonstop to pay back the debt, but no matter how hard he tried, it never seemed enough. Our boy promises him work will always be waiting and heads back, hoping for the best, but life rarely plays out the way we wish. Back in the other world, Yu's sister finally snaps, while Y refuses to fight back, only trying to reason with her and beg her to snap out of it. She grabs his face and flings him across the room like a bowling ball. For a second, he stayed perfectly still, wondering if this was truly the end of his story. The moment he spots Kim and Gu beneath him, he snaps back to his promise to keep them safe. Strength rushes back into his body, and he springs right back into action. He flies straight at his sister, hoping to put an end to her pain and bring her peace in her next life. Just before the brothers can make up, Crash zooms his flying jellyfish between them to stop the fight, but Birdman only gets mad when he sees his ride has just run over his sister. He sets that topic aside for the moment and urgently asks if the potion worked. With a confident grin, our hero holds up the 2 glowing green vials just as promised, and later that night, after a huge meal, Sister Gia slowly wakes up next to Kim, wondering if she is dreaming or if she is finally in the afterlife. As she turns her head, she spots her brother and a stranger by the campfire, and when Kyan looks at them, she panics because she doesn't know who they are or why so many strange people are around her. Birdhead turns around with a warm smile, tells her to check her mana hole, and sure enough, it is fully repaired and stronger than ever before. She also feels her face has become human again. Gia turns to her brother to ask about the strangers, but Yu just teases her, asking if she can't see the boy she's been waiting for is right there in front of her. When the truth finally sinks in, she crumbles and begs to know if he really is number 17. He nods and admits he saved them once more, but our boy barely cares about their feelings and just asks if they are out of red moss again. Gia quietly takes off her mask after years of silence and gives him a heartfelt thank you that truly means everything. Suddenly, Kim was completely mesmerized by the shimmering golden fairies dancing on the water surface. Gia says that if you follow her home after the sun rises, you'll find yellow quartz tucked right near their nests. A sudden jolt snaps our cold, calculating hero out of his trance, reminding him that he's wandered far from the real reason he came here, to find that mineral. Back on Earth, the director's team tells him that the hunters lost the machine beast, which is now hiding somewhere along the coast, leaving the director confused and worried. His men say that every A-rank hunter who went there came back with no memory of the place. Yet their trackers still found the target, and right then the director's phone buzzed with a furious gong, demanding to know if he'd ever heard of TDA Lab. The director flatly refuses to listen to anything about such a lab, so G.I. Jong quickly lists every dark detail he knows, only to be cut off abruptly by director Mayunk. He insists that Professor Bakshio taught him to seek the truth and serve people, swearing by the old man's name that he never forgot, before declaring he is too busy to talk further and hanging up. As soon as he hangs up, the man starts panicking because he can't believe the professor's grandson knows about the lab when all the records should have been erased, but before he can even think about it, a scientist bursts into the office shaking with excitement to report that the experiment to fuse Mandrora with mercury worked perfectly. At last, they forged the liquid metal Mandriga he dreamed of, and the moment the director laid eyes on it, the creep shivered with goosebumps running down his spine. He is thrilled because Mandrora